Handmaiden is a movie intended to disturb, thus bringing the atrocities and disturbances of society to the surface, forcing you to take some of their most violent and continue to work against the system. Now, The Handmaiden has you question what, if anything, is genuine about these people. The contradictory and intricate playing of cards behind each other's backs is prominent throughout the film's entirety. But think about it, there are few times when we offer people the benefit of the doubt completely for free. And to be honest, why would we? People twist and take advantage, but when Suki sees Hidoko's innocence fall for the first time, she takes the root of understanding and tears down her own to protect the true innocence of wanting to be free. When she was originally willing to do anything and everything that it took for her to leave her laborious and impoverished situation, despite having an emotional attachment to Lady Hidoko, she finally reaches her, and at times puts her best interest on the back burner. She tears up those books with little thought of the consequences, now more than ever having an understanding of just how powerful, just how despicable the torturous man who runs this house and the patriarchy that supports and protects his way of life truly is. She continues to deface that library. The idea of saving her own skin goes completely out the window as she jeopardizes herself, showing Hidoko conditionless compassion for the first time. This movie has been described as equal parts erotica and thriller. I've seen a lot of discourse about this movie's intimate scenes, and whether you can truly reclaim something designed for the male gaze. To be fair, it is completely understandable why audiences, more specifically lesbians, would be concerned about scenes such as this, especially when these characters are mimicking things in the pornographic material being used against them by men. However, these scenes are intentionally over the top and unrealistic, thus reflecting Hidoko and Suki's knowledge and experience with the topic prior to that point. Hidoko is someone violently exposed to sexuality and pornographic material at a horrifyingly young age, against her will. It is all she's ever known, and her uncle very much intended to keep it that way. It was an act to serve and satisfy the needs of other people. As she mentioned the first time she kissed Hidoko, Suki gained this experience from her friend. We don't know how much of that is the literal truth, but nonetheless, this experience has come from her environment and the way people are forced to survive and learn these things in said environment. Sexuality and desire are things neither have likely experienced in any way that was truly their own, and reclaiming these things down to their purest forms to be something special and equally wanted by both parties finally turns these acts into love. Although I understand being turned away by the overly explicit nature of these scenes, expecting this film to all of a sudden turn away from its graphic themes would be ridiculous. Most of this movie is intentionally uncomfortable, and I do not think that these scenes should have all of a sudden hid the raw emotion presented by the people on screen, especially as it is supposed to foil the perverted and selfish depictions forced upon these women in the Izumi family tree. This film is very explicit, though often presenting that facet in gore and subject matter. It would be unnatural for it to turn this characteristic away when exploring sex, especially with how prominent it is in the characters' lives. In my opinion, as it could unintentionally label lesbian sex as too much or impermissible to do or talk about. Labeling intimacy, more specifically sapphic intimacy, as taboo is dangerous, and I fear would only contribute to the problem. I feel and understand the fear that comes with knowing that men will see this, and they will think what they think about it, whether we like it or not, but at the end of the day, it's ours. The power and confidence that comes from reclaiming these acts as their own are vital to the story's narrative, and destroys the idea that sex between two women is a performance for the very first time in Hidoko's life. They are both finally free to do exactly as they please. I thought it was incredibly moving how, even though Hidoko was and is made to feel disgusted and violated by not only sex, but with her identity as someone attracted to other women, Hidoko has only ever been exposed to sex in its most artificial and disturbing setting. She is still able to find enjoyment and solace finally being welcomed into the arms of another whom she loves. It's so incredibly liberating and beautiful, and something that I treasure about this film, even more so when comparing it to lesbian tragedies and fetishizations. I do understand the irony in the fourth wall, being that the girls technically cannot escape the need to perform for the male gaze entirely, as it is a film intended to be watched. But I think by inspecting the director's intentions behind this film, the original novel, and the creative liberties he took to make this version the best it could be, you get the very best recreation you can possibly achieve with visual storytelling. During filming, director Park had all the male crew members take a day off, leaving only the essential female workers in the room with the actresses to create a comfortable and natural environment when shooting these types of scenes. Park says that despite not making most of his films with a message in mind, The Handmaiden was one that certainly had a message to get across, saying, "The story had a message where two women who had been oppressed by the quite violent male gaze formed solidarity between the two and were able to escape it. That is the crux of the story." Though a film cleverly tackling issues such as these is hard to accomplish earnestly with a male director, I believe that his genius is something that would have been missed without him. Director Park says, "While I was making Lady Vengeance, I got really into creating strong, independent, and empowered female characters. That led me to make The Handmaiden with not just one, but two strong women. I am inspired by the empathy of women. I believe women are more capable of sympathizing with other people compared to men. I am always moved to see this, and I always look back on myself to be a better person when I see this." The author of the novel Fingersmith, which The Handmaiden is based on, even states, though ironically the film is a story told by a man, it is still very faithful to the idea that the women are appropriating a very male pornographic tradition to find their own way of exploring their desires. Now, Misdirection, taking the actions and words of others at face value, and twisting the narrative are all what makes this movie such a thrill. It is a delightful study of code switching and the duality of man. The way seeds are carefully laid out from the start, causing you upon rewatch to see things completely differently. That is an example of great storytelling. Despite having plot twist after plot twist, you need change very little about what originally happened to make the twist make sense with a new context. Never before had I questioned Hidoko's innocence until she revealed it to Suki herself, but that scene pieced it together. For example, the irony of the line,
나쁜 년이다.
when seeing the line, Hidoko was a rotten woman, solely as we do in the first chapter, it frames Hidoko as truly poor-natured for the fun of the kill. We do not see her as human in that moment, thus not trying to understand her motives, just as everyone else in her life had before Suki. But as the chapter progresses and we see the true nature of Suki's words, we can grow to interpret this as sympathetic or playful. Yes, Hidoko is cunning and manipulative, but it is nothing more than a survival tactic. When she allows this mask to fall in front of Suki, she can truly start to be free and live as the version of herself she always deserved to be, with no barriers. Not only is the intricacy of the characters enticing, but the visual portrayal is enchanting as well. The use of wide shots and following cameras is both intimate and isolated, allowing us to be beside ourselves when viewing. We like to see ourselves as the character we interpret as most good, whether that be Suki or Hidoko, at any given time. As we learn more about them, we are forced to yet again shine that mirror onto our faces. I subscribe to the idea that we'd all like to think we would do the same or different when put in the middle of a character's situation. When presented with three-dimensional and contradictory characters, an audience is quick to judge whether they are right or wrong, but fails to yet again hold that mirror up to themselves. I also think this can apply to real life. Let me set the stage. When you're driving and the person in front of you is accelerating a little slower than you'd like, do you ever allow yourself time to think maybe they're protecting a birthday cake in the back seat? Maybe they're taking their dog home from the park? Maybe that's a student driver without a bumper sticker? I bet that when presented with this scenario, sitting at your computer or in bed, you think, I wouldn't be so quick to assume, but you do. This is what makes it so embarrassing when we find ourselves doing the same thing, hoping that the people behind us don't grow angry because they can't see the full picture. There is a birthday cake in my back seat. This film uses its twist to provide the opportunity for self-reflection, to take yourself out of that moment for a second, an opportunity to reanalyze what you know. I am 10 years too late on this topic, so I doubt any of the things I'm saying have not been said or at least alluded to, but there was something about The Handmaiden that drew me in completely. I'm ashamed to admit that it took me this long to get around to watching it. I think I was just intimidated by its runtime along with my schoolwork, but regardless, I gave it a watch for the first time this Valentine's Day, and I fell in love. It consumed my thoughts like smoke in a crowded room. It brought back this passion for raving about the things truly done right in films, the reason I started this channel in the first place. My first video was a complete passion project. It was my 6-month labor of love, and writing this video, though far less in depth than the former, I feel that passion and excitement again, and I have since been added to the list of hearts touched by The Handmaiden, and it will continue to shine on the list of my favorite queer films. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't seen The Handmaiden, please, please, please see The Handmaiden. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and pretty much anywhere if you look hard enough. Make sure to give my last video a watch if you're a Cherry Magic fan, and I would say the rest of my stuff is pretty okay too. No joke, this is a real statistic. 94% of you are not subscribed. You should feel guilty about that. Okay, anyway, bye!